contact with the Greys when our family went up into the spaceship we were taking there. Um, very tall ones, you know, I find them to be a very high intelligence, purposeful working. They were actually curious as to who we were, what our species, and what we were doing to each other. There was a caring. I felt not so much, you know, hug me, loving type thing, but you know, kind of a researching and trying to understand the complexity of what had caused us to rip a hole in our atmosphere, you know, to cause harm to our own planetary system. That was kind of the first connection with them. Later, I'm an alchemical hypnotherapist. I have clinical hypnotherapy and psychology licenses. And I was doing some work up in Middletown, which is where I was up in the high mountains. People were having the abductions, that a lot of that was happening. And people were asking me to regress them. And so in doing so, we got a lot of information about the smaller gray species. And what was coming out of that is their group mentality. Like they would always come in groups, not by themselves. They would come for the purpose of collecting. The women would be taken up into a ship, and you know, there was the thing about the yeast for their skin. There was those who were used for their electromagnetic battery. It was like a battery. They'd siphon off energy from the being. There was different reasons why they were working with the humanity, and they were actually given permission by our government to do experimentations with us. Later we found out, you know, I walked into a room and my friend had abduction memory, and there they were taking him off the bed. You know, he was asleep. And I was able to make a loud noise. We discovered that a certain tone would scatter them. They couldn't handle certain frequencies, very high frequencies. Fred Bell was very much instrumental in really bringing the knowledge of using high frequencies to dispel, which he did at Dulce Air Force Base up on the plateau. Got speakers and he played them, and you know, ships were just leaving by the dozen. But what you have there is they tell us they're from our future, and that we had begun cloning. And they cloned the humanoid embodiment so much the women could not have babies because the heads were too big. And then they lost their emotional body. And so from what I understand, they had come back to gain the human DNA to bring back, to have babies born so that they could gain back their emotional body. So that grouping was happening. So you had some that were, you know, for biological care of the Greys' bodies and just, you know, different things. Once they had acquired the emotional body, basically they left. But that, you know, while they were in place, my distinct awareness was that the reptilians showed up off the astral belts. They were living up in the asteroids. They are living. So just be very clear about that. And that they live off of the nuclear air. That there's an air that has radiation to it. You know, they don't breathe the same air as we do. But so the Greys were, to me, easy to handle once you understood that if you did something that was not a part of the mission that they were on, they would scatter. So they were not as, you know, the smaller ones. The taller ones always had a substantial mission, as you said, Brian. So I appreciate you saying that. It's a great book, and she really tells it like it is.
Yeah, we have another abductee here, Jeff. We've done about 20 hours of videos with him on our Vancouver UFO channel. And he has a similar impression that very close relationship, a good relationship with the Greys, but I guess their impression is very positive about the Greys. They're trying to advance our civilization, that the hybridization program is to improve humanity, like and make us more spiritual, give us more quantum dimensional consciousness, and that the result, like 500 years in the future, is that Homo sapiens sapiens will be replaced with this hybridized combination between Greys and Homo sapiens, something that's more suitable or more less of this kind of grasping quality like humanity is not that spiritual. They want us to be more spiritually developed. So this big program is underway to, I guess, improve the whole world and humanity. So it's very big. It's a very big program. But I guess like he and others like Susie Hansen have a positive view on it. So I guess your perspective is different than on the whole agenda of the culture society of the Greys.
Yeah, there's no what the ultimate respect is that we are all expressions of the Creator, and so they ultimately, there's a whole channeling in the book about that, you know, and so there's no changing anything. You know, you have a purpose, you have a function. They totally respect that. You are galactic consciousness. They respect your purpose for being here. We are one tone species. We create a tone. If you listen in your heart, you can hear the tone of all of our species. There's a lot of discord and dissonance because we have been tampered with through the modulation of the 444 frequency, and also different things in the programming and what's going on the television and the cyberspace, and of course we've got the, you know, the Starlink satellites that are out there just humming away, and you know, there's different interference patterns which it affects how we are developing in our own consciousness, and how we are developing to being the humans that we are here today. But what I understand from the High Spiritual Council is that the hybriding is a part of reverse consciousness. It's not something that's coming straight out of creation. And not everybody on the planet, you know, there was a time when the reverse ones were doing genetic engineering, and that's what kind of brought down the veil in the first place, you know. They were just taking beings and mixing them with different formulations of creatures and different things like this. And it's happening again. You know, we're kind of in that experimentation of RNA department again. And this is not a natural thing. So you were born with a specific purpose and function, and they enhance that. The galactics that I'm in contact with respect it, and they are there to show us how we can build our civilization where it is, and begin to look at each individual not as a race, not as a nation, but the individuals as what they're here and why they're, you know, where do they come from? Why are they here? How could they be useful? We have workforces that says, well, let me fill out an application. I'll see if I can, you know, be a fireman, or see if I can, you know, work for MUFON or whatever. But if you unveil all of that society layers, what you're going to find is the person came here for a cosmic reason. And that's what they read within us. Now, the other groupings that you were saying, they want to purify or, you know, have humanity to be a certain way. You know, there's no tampering with the ones that I work with, because of that honoring of the Radiant One. The Radiant One put you here for a specific reason. Even the reverse ones are seen as the guardians of separation. So there are those who are needing, you have to think of your birth contracts, why you came into this family, this lineage. You know, did you come in to learn about separation? So there's an overlay of that as well. And so there's less tampering of that and more of, let's take you right where you are right now, and how can we assist you? They talk about envisioning, using your imagination, you're using that part of your consciousness, your primal awareness, to give information to the universe on how the universe can be formulated. So there's a whole teaching about manifestation and your ability to do that. The biological unit that we've been given can work beyond measure. We haven't even really tapped into that. And so their ability to elevate, and this is where they're talking about the awakening, and I'd like to talk further about this, Ian, if you want to have me back. We just had a download about the resonance of consciousness. If you have a consciousness that resonates at a frequency that's higher than yours, and that doesn't mean one person's more intelligent than the other, it just means that's the state of resonance. And if the resonance is higher, and I'm standing next to this being who has the ability, all of their abilities are full on, and they're able to function in a different reality, my biological unit will then begin to sync up with that intelligence. It takes the resonance of a high intelligence to offer the elevated consciousness and allow me, if I was to stand next to them, to have the same, to get there, to take the leap. And that's what humanity is doing. So there's more to talk about that. And I hope I was comprehensive for you.
Oh, certainly, Celestine. And let me just take you up on that, Celestine. I would like to have you back to explore the download of the resonance of consciousness again. And if that's okay with you and Mimi, let's see.
Yeah, I've actually got an opening on the 8th of August, if you'd like to take that, Celestine, if that works for you.
Okay, let me see here. I have an opening, so that's very perfect.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent. Done.
Let's do it.
Ding.
Thank you. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I want to go over to Bernie. Bernie has had his hand up. Bernie, come on in and speak to Celestine.
Hi, Celestine. Thank you for being here. Well, these are all very new to me. They're totally new and kind of interesting to know more. One of the things I would like to know is, I saw your slide that has the Osiris leading to Mary.
Yes.
So these are religion, right? At one point in time. And if you look at religion, you have from the Judaism to Christianity, Catholicism, right up to Islam. And in recent years, you have the Mormons. So they're all using the same Bible, basically, the same book. So are you saying like the religion that we have today is kind of like originate from them?
Okay, thank you for that question. And the answer is no, that was not actually a slide of religion. That is a slide of my sister, and her name is Aset. And we are from the star system Sirius. And so the Kemetic wisdom, the Kemetic people, the beings who came from the stars, assisted humanity. We were here before the floods, and we are here after the flood. So you have to think about that. So we came as extraterrestrials, as you would say, from a different place. We came to this place during the time of the greening. So the third dimension is the greening area. A lot of people from the Pleiades came to do the terraforming. Our civilization, we came through stargates, and we came for the purpose of organizing social structure, consciousness. Aset was a genetic engineer. She is a genetic engineer. She still exists. Being in the form of Mother Mary was her last incarnation on the planet. But always the work was about love. Her work is the mother. When the floods happened and civilization was coming back, you know, the signature form, the human form was coming back online, she was the one that helped the women to formulate pregnancy. And that's why they call her the Great Mother, because she made it so that women could help each other to have babies and get civilization going again. You have to think of how many humans were on the planet after the floods. So that she gained great. So there's not a religion behind her as much as honoring her. And some people say worship, but no, not really worship. But she was a genetic engineer. Part of my working after the floods was to lay down the educational universities in the places where people could come, like ASEA, where there was a university where women were actually the doctors and women were the nurturers. And so you have Mary Magdalene, who studied at some of the temples that were already like 2,000 and 3,000 years old when she came to the temples during that time when Yeshua and all of them walked upon the planet. So she learned medical forms of healing through biology, you know, plant, you know, healings, and she carried the unguent jar of, you know, oils and therapeutic ways of healing people. So when I'm speaking to you of this, yes, there are people who made religions, even false religions, because those who carried the Bible are carrying some of the stories, but not the stories of the whole earth. They're carrying the stories of the people in Syria and Lebanon, the people from Mars, because you have to understand Mars blew out their atmosphere, and so they came to Earth. They were given the Fertile Crescent area to live. So their consciousness, which some of them were reversed, was all about kingship, ownership. You know, you have the Romans, you have all this warfare, things were happening. You have to look at the consciousness that was happening during those times. The propaganda that went out. And the making up of stories that, you know, like they do now. We have false stories that are being put out and people are actually believing it. So no, our grouping was not about religion, but we did deal with teaching cattle farming, like how to, down in the Nile area, there was the beautiful cattle people. That's how they lived. They were shown that. And so you have the mixture of the universal principles with the earth experience. And so you get the cow goddess because she fed the grouping. You have to honor that. I mean, even you know, you have to say thank you. You're saying thank you for the fields of rice. You're saying thank you for, you know, the bounty. And so these sculptures and these understandings were given to the people through our lineage and some of the lineages where your people reside. And where are you from, Bernie?
I'm from Malaysia, my country origin.
Yeah.
But I've been here for a long time, since 2004.
Yeah, so you have mystical beings that appeared and and helped civilization come back into being, and they honored them. What is really interesting is that they can phase in and out, like, you know, they didn't, some landed in ships, some phased in and out. You know, as I said, at the time it was about getting civilization going again, but you always had in the greening area different ultra-terrestrial groups that mingled with the human seed consciousness, right? Because they needed resources. So there was nothing to have a ship land, and they get out and they do their thing, and then, you know, but when the barrier came, you would only find the connection through what they call the temples, or through certain groupings in society. There wasn't just everybody would see them. You know, you had to have a calling. But if you really needed to go and be with your galactic orange, the door was always open. It is always open. That's why you're here, Bernie. The door is open. And you're standing at the gateway. And so just depending on how you recognize yourself, you know. So back to religion, some people are in need. There's been a whole era, as they say, the era of deception is ending. But as far as, you know, the human nature is to come together in a grouping, and we look to the leaders to teach us, you know. But the ancient symbols are in the Bible, the ancient places of being, the stories of the extraterrestrials, the ultra-terrestrials who came, who have always been here. They never left. We never left. But you have to put on the glasses that says, when I'm speaking of someone, you know, from Isaiah or whatever, these angels that appear, these are the guardians for the planetary system at that time. So even though the Bible is there, if you go back to the original text, which I learned as a young child at the biblical libraries like in London and such, you actually look at the text, you could see it in a different way. And so that's what I would say. You know, the religions can only take you so far, and then you're on your own. You know, they hold true because they hold some of the stories, but they are the stories of the people who lived in the Middle East. You know, and they're not even. I'm saying, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you finished the point, Celestine. That's fascinating.
Right. So you have the people of Mars. You know, if you really want to peel back the layer of all of that, you know, the people. You know, Abraham came out of Syria. Egypt owned all that land. The Egyptians, we colonized all that land all the way up through the Fertile Crescent. We had colonies in India, you know, the Kemetic, right? And so, but yeah, so the stories that came out of Syria, and these people that were captured and taken up into Babylon, which is the place of the Martians, right? 400 years later, they come back and they're writing their stories. And most of them were written by, you know, Josephus.
Yes, Josephus.
Yeah, Josephus. And he was Roman. People didn't realize. So of course he's, you know, he's writing, making up stories. So everybody's under the, let's break the spell, under the religion, you know, Christianity is Josephus made up religion. So eventually you have to come to
good. Celestine, can I bring in Mimi here, because I think Mimi, and I don't know if Mimi wants to talk about this aspect, but you mentioned about Mars losing its atmosphere, which set off sort of like lights for me.
Lots of alarms.
Yeah. So here, Mimi, go ahead.
Right. You sense my burning passion on this. Just a quick thing about galactic heritage. I've had a vision, and I've been told that my ancestors were from Mars. So everything that you're saying is really, really interesting to me.
Okay.
We don't know that much about it, right? We don't know that much about what actually happened. So I was hoping that you would touch upon a little bit about how the, you know, we know that the atmosphere burnt up. We know that some cataclysm happened on Mars. But if you could talk about how they ended up coming to this planet and who gave them land. Now you said that it was in Babylon. So where is Babylon in the planet now? What countries would Babylon be? Is around Syria?
No, it's the Fertile Crescent. It's more Iran, Iraq.
Okay.
All of that.
Okay, yeah. So can you speak a little bit about that? Like how, you know, how the refugees got here?
So basically there were several things that happened. If you can imagine that there is intelligent creation that's larger than the Sheshata, the Milky Way. They call them sectors of time and space. And the whole of the Milky Way is moving through these sectors of time and space. Some of the first time when you read it in the book, the frequency was too low so when the Milky Way went through the sector of time and space, everything started breaking up. This is how we had the breaking up of the continent. There was different things. You'll read it in the book. And as it did, you know, these beings from Lyra, Andromeda, all these other places, Sirius, we came in and we rescued. They come in and rescue those who are in the greening area. Because if you go to most of the planets, most beings do not live in the physical area of the planet, in the third dimensional field, because it's a lower density, you know.
Right.
They live in a place that is, you know, of a higher resonant field, and that way no chopping wood carry water, right? So anybody who was in the greening area, they would rescue. Okay, so let's go forward. What it did was it caused the first reversal of consciousness in our Sheshata area. So other planetary systems throughout the whole Sheshata was experiencing the reverse consciousness, and they had to do a whole, they call it the destructive period, and destruction. They had to wait till things settled down. Then you have the people of reverse consciousness. They took to a healing place, and I was taken in a Vimana, those beautiful ships of, like in India. I was taken to a healing place to witness the extraordinary ability to just, you know, just coming into the field of this place that is in. You know, the place that they took me was kind of floating in the air, floating in space. You know, but it was a huge, almost like can't describe it as an island, but it was a huge place where they took people that needed healing. And some could be repaired, some could not. Okay, so things settled down, and they had to bring them, they brought them back into different places of being. There were those in Uranus, those on Mars, and some came back, and there was small little colonies. You have to realize it was small groupings. It wasn't like millions of people at that time, millions of grouping, right? So you have those on Mars, and their society, they're built up. They built their small, you know, colonies and such, but you have to remember, some of them had reverse consciousness. And as they began to grow in numbers, then what you have is a civilization, and they did the tampering. Once again, one of the things that you'll know about reverse consciousness, it wants to get into the time ship. They want to go through time portals. They want to have control over time. And so I have to take a moment because I have someone who is going to come. Perfect. 9 minutes. Okay, I'll just tell her perfect. And she's just coming to pick up a book. So you have people that are beings that started wanting to tamper with time complexes. And the thing about a reverse consciousness is they don't think it all the way through. Like right now, we have them, the experience of what happened during the time of Atlantis, as we call it, Atlantis, you know, pre-diluvial. You had the reversal of the electromagnetic field through the tampering of the crystalline grid and the electromagnetic sphere. They call it the magnetic electric energies of the earth. They always put magnetic first, the ultra-terrestrials. And so on Mars, there was a reversal of the field, but it caused the atmosphere to collapse, so that when you have the sun that goes into the center of the planet, and as the magnetic field of the sun is pulling the energy, it pulls the energy from the center outward, you get the atmosphere. So that's how we get our atmosphere, is where the sun comes in and pulls the center, pulls it up, you know, pulls it out, and as it's pulling it out, the power of its ability to pull outward spins the molecules and produces the light and also the edges of the atmosphere. And so when you do a tampering, they were doing a tampering in the timeline, time and space, working with time and space, and did a fluctuation of some sort. and cause the atmosphere to go out. So now you have emergency number 63, and you're getting people off the planet.
Mhm.
Okay, so you have the high spiritual council, you have, whoever is able to come in and rescue. And so in the end, the nearest planet that could sustain those that were on Mars was on Earth. And if you're on Mars, you'll notice that Mars had a different gravity pull, and so people were taller.
Mm.
And so the giants came, the giant people came to Earth. And you'll still see them. Anybody who's been on Mars, I've seen people who've lived on Mars, the government sent them there. They found their bones were pulled in a different way, and they were taller. They just, you could just feel them, or they have the giant gene within them. So if you look at the Fertile Crescent, that whole area is one of the places. People say Marduk, who knows the story? They wrote their own story. So, what I know from the Galactics is they were given that place to be, and the Kemetics, or the people of Sirius, the star people, not the native people, not the pharaoh, that hadn't really come into play. Kings and pharaohs, again, anything that's lordship or rulership over anything is reverse consciousness. There's always a unified mind, right? So those of us who were there at the time settled them into that area of being. And they grew in nature, and again, because of their ruling and wanting to put themselves on all civilizations without regard, that is the nature of what they do. And so where we're at right now is the same functionality. One of the things that happens in that area is what we call the 15.5 parallel. If you look at the Earth, and you have the north and you have the south, where the two magnetic and electric come together, you have an anomaly where it goes positive, negative, it doesn't stay. It fluctuates, and in the fluctuation, that is where most of the wars are fought. If you live in an area that's a 15.5 parallel on both north and south. So you can look at the area and you'll find and that causes humanity to have trouble balancing their energy field.
Mm.
So
Okay.
that's what, I hope that answered your question.
It gave me so many more questions. I'm gonna have to read your book.
Okay.
That's the trouble. You've just mentioned crystalline grid, and we could go off again on that one.
I know,
but,
right?
But
It's right behind me.
Yeah, Celestine, I'm
Yes.
conscious you've got someone coming to pick up a book or something. I don't know if we can take up any more of your time, or if you want to leave us.
But a couple of them. She let her come in.
Yeah,
I'll open the door when it's ready.
Yeah.
I want to hear from Jesse.
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Mufani. Hello,
Yeah,
Jesse.
Jesse, come on in.
Hi, yeah, what would you like to know?
What would I like to know? Tell us something grand and beautiful.
No, I'm just here to learn. That's why I came today. I seen what you were about, and I read some of your everything that you do, and wanted to come in and learn more about it in the consciousness level. I investigate cases, so to learn about it this way gives me a little more insight when I am doing and working on cases with people. So that's why I'm here today.
What you're doing is so important. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're the Mutual UFO Nation network has some of the most formidable, records and recordings of human history there and their experiences. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Have you been to the main building?
No, not yet. I'm in Philadelphia, so it's well, they're in California. They did just open one in Ohio, though, the new building. So I'll take a trip there sometime. But
beautiful. Well, we're glad to have you here.
Thank you very much. Happy to have you, and thank you for all your information today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Blessings.
I think Bernie's got another question. Bernie, do you want to come on in?
Bernie. Come on, Bernie. Give it to me.
Okay. Yeah, just something that sort of like bothers me or keep me going thinking about it. Like you have the ability to link yourself to another dimension. My friend, my colleague, she lives in a room and she can experience 5 spirits in her room. She can like she knows there are 5 different spirits, and occasionally the spirits will like play tricks on her, stuff like that. They're kind of like mischievous, you know, doing stuff, nothing serious. But I'm just curious, like I am never that kind of person. Okay, I'm very like down to earth, nothing spiritual. So if I want to get from my place to where you are, is there a thing like something that I can do, or is just you're chosen or you're not chosen? It's like on-off thing.
So everyone, thank you for that sharing, and definitely your friend has some kind of agreement with the spirits, or it wouldn't be happening. You know, she's allowing either disincarnate, or perhaps they're some kind of ancestors. You know, sometimes ancestors come along, they want to hang out with you.
What happens?
But for you to answer your question, hold on just 1 minute.
Fine. In the meantime, while Celestine's gone, and thanks coming back there, Mimi. I just wanted to mention Celestine had talked about and featured some of what we call popularly known as Marian visions, and talked about the experiences that she had at Lourdes in France. Well, I've always been interested in the Marian visions as well, and they are connected with the UFO phenomena. I've actually spoken to several experiencers themselves who have experienced their own version of what they would call the Virgin Mary. When I was in Mexico, I've researched the Virgin of Guadalupe, the appearance of the Virgin over 5 times to a young shepherd boy called Juan Diego, and that led to the building of the basilica on the hill of Tonatzin near Mexico City. Now, Tonatzin in itself is the name of the Aztec or Nahuatl goddess, the Earth Mother. So it seems that these Marian visions can appear to different civilizations, to different interpretations, and they have a strong sense of purpose. In the Western Hemisphere, our most famous one, of course, is most likely the Fatima visions. And a lot of the visions that happened in Fatima also have parallels with what Celestine has seen and photographed with her Skywatch groups, the movement of the clouds and the sun in the heavens, as it were. So if anyone wants to explore this a bit further, there's a book by Brad Steiger called The Gods of Aquarius. It's an old book, but it's a very good book because it actually ties in that specific part. I know Brad Steiger was a prolific author, but in that book he did concentrate specifically on the Marian visions. Okay, just thought I'd throw that in there.
It was a really amazing picture. I'm trying to find it to see if it's on my computer, of Neptune. Did anyone see that?
I did, and I thought straight away when Celestine featured that picture as well of the being in the clouds. And Celestine talked about that photograph changing over time. Well, that was a hard one for me to get my head around in my investigations some years ago, that people were telling me, and that I'd come across cases where people had said their actual photographs had changed over time. I thought, how could that happen? How can it happen? But it's almost as though just when it can't get any more weird, it does. And people are telling you firsthand that these photographs are changing. Tim Good, in his book, I believe Alien Base, featured a case in Italy, and that featured photographs which were Polaroid photographs, but they actually seemed to change themselves over time. That's you calling me Mimi.
Yes, sorry.
Unless that's your doppelganger.
Yeah, I was just looking for that photograph because I'm pretty sure I sent it to you.
Yes, you did. You did send it to me.
So I'm looking for it, but I can't find it.
But here's the other synchronistic thing about that, Mimi. Now, 16 months ago, just before the pandemic hit, I spent time on the south coast of England, and I visited the seaside town of Brighton. And the sea was quite rough that day, and the surf and the spray was spraying up high above the harbour walls. I took a few photographs. It's not too. They didn't show any images of Neptune or mythical figures, but it was very, very similar. Now here's the synchronistic thing. You sent that yesterday to me. I didn't know Celestine was going to feature some pictures in the clouds of what looked like other being faces and heads. And also next week, I go back to that place where I was 16 months ago and photographed those waves crashing on the shore. So yeah, it brings it all around full circle.
I found the photograph, so I'm just going to share screen with you guys.
Gosh, look at that. That's gorgeous.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
A photographer for the BBC took that.
Oh my
God. And he swears that it's not manipulated in any way.
Yeah.
And not only that, Mimi, it's not just the face. He's got his arm around it, his hand holding the harbour wall.
I know. It's too much. But it's like yours, right? It's like yours. And a lot of this kind of stuff is actually appearing to people on Earth. I've seen some different things in Mexico. And you're right, the veil is opening. The veil is almost open, I would think. Probably CERN had something to do with it in our time. And 1945, like you said, that's when initially the blast opened. So, that's probably the silver lining that we have about that era of time, that we were supposed to have it open somehow so that we could learn who we really are and our origins. But that really blew my mind. This Neptune thing really blew my mind. And when you were doing your presentation today, I thought of it because, yeah.
That's good. And while we're on that point, Celestine, I believe that you refer back to actually being an eyewitness in New Mexico when you were 7 years old to this happening and seeing the results of the atomic bomb explosions. So is that true? You actually saw this firsthand?
Yes. One of the things that happened, and this is a physical occurrence, was it shifted Earth 17 degrees off axis. So you can go back to the research. There was a lot of scientists that wrote articles about the Earth shifting 17 degrees off axis. To the Native American, of which we used to do a lot of powwows and go out to the powwows with they brought everybody together, and they were furious about it because you're standing there looking at this guy warbling and the delineation of the line, but they started dancing the ghost dance again, and I think it was outlawed apparently from the 1800s, and they started dancing in 1960 there. That's when it happened for me, when I saw that they had actually and later in the research, it was, I think, 10 atomic bombs at one time. Let's test it and see how much we can do. Yeah, so the Native Americans, we danced. They danced the ghost dance. My stepfather took a beautiful picture of the dancers, one of the dancers, extraordinary picture of it. And we just watched, it took months. It took months for it to heal. It didn't just go back together at one time. So we opened the field to all kinds of beings coming in, consciousness, incarnated, disincarnated, and we try to figure out why we're having problems today, But the galactics say we have to figure it out. They're not going to do a flood. They're not going to shut down everything. They're not going to go into a differential war with us. We have to figure it out. And they give us a cue. Frequency. The higher the frequency, the more we can heal. We can even bring people with reverse consciousness, some of them, back into a state of harmony and balance. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well,
Okay.
I'm gonna have to get ready to go. I love
Well,
you all.
that's been brilliant anyway, Celestine, and we've got you inked in now on the calendar for the 8th of August. So come on back and
Absolutely.
tell us then and give us an update on what's going on. So thank you very much. I've been honored to have you as my first guest as hosting on Vancouver UFO.
Awesome.
Thank you
Love
very
you all.
much.
Blessings.
And
Yes,
Take
thank you
care.
for your
And-
time.
Yeah.
I'd
Much
just like to,
appreciated.
and I'd just like to say, glory in the light of the radiant one.
Glory in the light of the radiant one. Blessed
Thank you,
be.
Celestine.
Blessed be.
Bye. And I think what I'm going to do also is I want to read the chat, so I'm going to save that so I can read it all later. Blessings to you all. And, you know, if you could put my website up in there for everybody.
I think, yes, we'll make sure we do that.
All right. Love and blessings.
Take care.
You too. Love and blessings.
Bye, Mimi. I love you.
Bye. I love you too.
Goodbye. Take care. Speak to you soon.